turn this Bluetooth thing off. Tripod. You know what?
Yeah, Max.
Okay, pause. Good evening. Are we ready?
You are live.
All right. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Wherever you are, this is your favorite platform, the Common Good. Greetings coming from our entire panelists and entire members of this platform. Di nuyu ñëpp di leen tura di leen dalalaat ci seen favorite platform bi bu ñu oowee the Common Good. Tey si panel bi am nañ suñ brother Lamin Tamba. We also got our brother Daba Malik, who's going to join us in a minute. am nañ suñ brother tamit Pa Ous ak man suma boppa. Apologies tey amuñ kenn si suñ sister si available di either Elizabeth or Madeline to be part of it. Waaye am naa ne gaay fu nekk ñu ñoo seetaan di ñu support. Di just taking this opportunity also to apologize quickly. We could not come as planned on our last program. Our sincere apologies. It was something beyond our control, and these things happens. We value our viewers, and we will always try and make sure we come on to your way and to have that Gambian discussion, which is going to take our country forward. So on tonight's panel for now, it's me, your brother, Bakari, who will be moderating the discussion today. And then with me, I've got Pa Usman Cham and Lamin Tamba. And then, like I said, Brother Malik also will be joining us in a minute. He's just held up onto something. So what I'll do for now is, after I introduce the topics of discussion, I'll go to Paus and Brother Lamin, give them the opportunity to say hello and do their greetings. Our today's topics of discussion, it's going to be around per diem travel allowances, which we pay to our top ministers, top government officials. And then our second part of the discussion would be President Barrow's speech at the National Assembly, which was which he delivered at the National Assembly on Thursday, I believe. So this is the second part of the discussion. Right? Again, we value your contributions, your comments, and your questions. We would be trying your comments during the programs also, and then after that, before the end of the program, also we'll give people the opportunity if they want to come on and ask a question or contribute. So thank you once again. So I'll just go around and get Brother Paus and Brother Lamin Tamba to introduce themselves. So Paus.
Yes. Max, can you hear me?
Brother Lamin Tamba to introduce themselves. So Paus.
Yeah, good evening, listeners. Yes. Max, can you hear me? Yeah, good evening.
Paus, can we just get one of them muted, please?
Paus, can you reduce your hi-fi or stereo sound in your place? That's why it's echoing.
Okay, can you all hear me now?
Perfectly clear, yes.
Okay, but you can't see me, but you will see me from another screen. Yes. Yeah, comme ni ma ko waxee woon, asalaamaaleykum mbokk yi ñun la again, same platform, same people, the Common Good platform panelists. I'm most grateful to be here again to elaborate on the said topics. Di ñaan rek nit yi tey nañu déglu at xel ba ñoo déglu at xol parce que li ñu fee wax yëpp nekkul ne ñoo di experts waaye we're giving our quota as a concerned Gambian what we think based on fact as well, and we stand to be challenged, we stand to be questioned likewise. So on that note, thank you very much, Bakari, for having me here again, and also good evening to my fellow panelists, Lamin Tamba. Thank you.
Thank you, Paus. Good evening, Brother Lamin Tamba. It's a pleasure having you on. You are a very difficult man to get kind of things, so we appreciate your time and your busy schedule. You on, so please say your greetings.
Good evening, Bakari. Thank you very much for having me on the platform. I'm privileged to be here discussing matters arising from the Gambia and matters concerning the Gambia. And I'll be more than happy to share my experiences regarding the two topics that you've just mentioned. And to Paos, my fellow panelists, good evening and welcome to the show. to our audience viewing this program from any corner of the globe. Thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate the time you put into listening to the current affairs in and out of Gambia, but affecting Gambia one way or the other, negative or positive. So we'll look at the negatives and the positives of both topics, and I'll be more than happy to learn from you guys, and hopefully you guys will learn from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Lamin. Thank you, Brother Paos. I'm sure Brother Pa will be joining in a minute. Whenever he comes on, we would call him and give him the opportunity to say hello and greet our esteemed viewers. Like we just said on the introduction topic, guys, today our 2 points of discussion would be centered about paradigm travel payments and also President Barrow's speech to the National Assembly. So what we're going to do today, we're going to start with paradigm traveling. And then the second part of this discussion would be around the President Barrow's speech to the National Assembly, which was this Thursday, I believe. Guys, like I did a little bit of a reading. It's a common thing that has really featured in the social media discussions in the Gambia. It hasn't festered that much lately, but there was a lot of talk around it a couple of months ago, a month back, where we've seen lots of top government officials going on big entourages, traveling to different countries, and then getting a lot of per diem payments. So the discussion today would be around the morality of those travels and what benefit it brings to Gambia, because we're not trying to say here it's illegal payment or it's corrupt, but I mean, I think as a Gambian, and most of the panelists here would agree, or the viewers, there is a sense of belief that this per diem travel payment has been milked or is being abused in certain quarters. Yes, we understand top government official has to travel. We understand the president has to travel. We understand the minister has to travel. But all this is at a cost most of the time to the Gambian taxpayer. So what are we gaining, or what are we getting back from this travel? Is this payment we paying to these top officials, are they bringing more gains, or are they bringing more benefits for the taxpayer to offset or to overbalance how much we investing in them? And also just to look at certain scenarios or certain incidents where we genuinely believe the number of people representing Gambia and Gambian taxpayers, whether those groups could be resized to be a smaller group, more efficient and more effective, and also just cost saving, because we all had when President Barrow took over that they said the coffers were empty. So now, if coffers are empty, then we should all see, or we should all witness expenditure from government to reflect that. But sometimes we see like lots and lots of government officials going on to certain travels or meetings where, in my opinion, I could be wrong here, that certain people or they shouldn't be part of that. So it's not trying to stop it. We cannot stop it. It's been happening for ages, not just this administration. It happened during Jammeh's administration. It happens during Jawara's. But the issue we are asking, or the discussion here, is what can we do to minimize the per diem travel? Also, is this of big benefit for us? It's not just officials jumping into plane, going and staying in hotel, and also getting paid at that. But when they go to represent Gambia, are they representing Gambia and bringing something that's gonna be like more beneficial to Gambians? Into the discussions, I think we could be able to quote some numbers and figures. As far as I know right now, a government minister, if he or she travels, gets over £200 or dollars of payment per night. Top officials, i.e. top civil servants like Secretary General and ambassadors and all that, they get over £130. Then other government officials get £90. Now, these are all not crazy figures, but if someone travels for a certain number of duration or with a big group, that could be a big figure. And also we have to be very mindful that salary in the Gambia is very low. So if you get a minister or a top official getting paid £130 per night for travel, and then you get a low paid Gambian at the bottom of that scale who is not even getting or taking home £100 at a month. So the gap there is where the discussion is going to be around. I mean, can we do something about that? So what I would do is I will start with Paus. Paus, what's your take about paddy travel? Any figures and any research you did that at least to share with our esteemed viewers, because I know you've been doing a lot of reading around it, so Islam in Tamba, but I'll start with you, Paus.
Thank you, Bakari. Can you hear me? Because I'm using two laptops. One is for screen, one is for the audio. So I'm not sure if you can see me.
We can hear you, and then we can see you a bit far away from the background. The most important thing is just for us to hear you, but we can hear you loud.
Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you very much, Bax, for this important topic that we are bringing. Somebody might question, why are we having this thing now? But it's a concern and it affects the Gambian economy. And if we all could remember November 2016, where the government announced that the coffers of the Gambia were barely empty. It could only take us maybe up to 2 months. And if we have a government that said the Gambia is almost to a bankrupt, and now we are having the same government who is saying that, who is doing multiple trips. And I will give examples, right? Prior to that, you mentioned a word, illegal. Well, when you are paid something that is not worthy of that service you did, that is illegal. That is wrong, because that is stealing. If somebody wants to travel for more than the required amount of number of days, thereby depriving a civil servant that excess of payment in that difference, that is stealing. Well, the way we define steal in the UK, if I stop you from using something without your consent, that is me stealing. So that is that we can say that in that sense that is illegal. We are not saying people shouldn't go to travel. Yes, when this new government came into power, the only way that they could make things happen was to travel, sell the Gambia. But we have seen the tourism minister accompanying the president to Saudi Arabia. And we have seen the interior minister who went there as well. So since when does the Gambia have any bilateral ties with Saudi Arabia in the areas of tourism and interior ministry or policing or internal security of this country? That to me tells me these were unnecessary trips. And we also seen President Barrow, when he first took over office, he went around tour to the African countries, claiming to tell them thank you. And what we fail to understand, ministers and government are paid £300 per night. £300. Imagine if a minister or a senior officer travels to America for 16 days. That is a hell of money. And also we have seen recently the VP who traveled to the United States, the former VP, with 21 delegates. What are they going to do for? You know, what we're saying here is the number of people in respect of what they're going for. Of course, when the president goes to UN, we expect him to go with businessmen to attract business. But again, here I'm going to create here a debate. What we have right now is we have the ministers to travel with the president. At the same time, we have ambassadors at large who will again travel with this president. Whether those people are paid per diems, I'm not sure or not. But these per diems, what I was thinking was part of these austerity measures for the government to take when they come into office first was to cut down unnecessary spending and reduce the CEOs, MDs, their salary. I will come into detail about the social security incident where we are quoting about the manager having paid for a dinner. It's not him who is claiming it. It's a system in place. These were the things that the government should have cracked down. Because look at the Greece. When they wanted a bailout from the EU, they had to cut spending. They had to reduce the amount of salary they pay the senior staff. People have to volunteer their bonuses. This government should have put bonus freeze and these allowances to freeze them until to a point whereby the economy is at the level. a country with a national debt of $20.3 billion. That is too much, and it's still going up. So in the subsequent program, I will bring out slides to back up what I'm saying, and I'll stop here and give Lamin, Mr. Tamba, or give it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Paus, for those amazing statistics and also backing them up with numbers. That is nothing less we would expect from you, because everyone on this platform, before we come and talk, we make sure we read and research on the topics that we talk. We are humans, we might do some errors or we might do some mistakes, but it's not intentional if it happens. Just have to try our best. But it's very fruitful to see whenever we come to talk on this platform, anybody on this panel would do their best to go and get some bit of knowledge and to know what they're talking about before we come and engage our viewers. So the educational part of it is amazing. So thank you very much, Paos, for that wonderful intervention. Brother Lamin Tamba, so today I'll call you my brother. You are not my jam.
Okay, I'll take that just for today.
What's your take on this government per diem travel? Is it wasteful? Can it be something we can cope and reuse? And is it something that should be part of the austerity measures to reflect our government spending and also to reflect the realities of what they're saying is our national coffers is a bit empty? But then we're seeing, like Paus just quoted, a former vice president traveling to the United States with 21 delegates. What's your take on that?
Yes. I mean, to me, it's a case of, it's the same problem we've got with this government, and that's communication. With anything you do in terms of public services, you have to have a cost-benefit analysis. Okay, you need to tell your taxpayers, your departments, your electorate that you want to do something, and this is what you want to achieve out of it. And to achieve that, you need to do this, A, B, C. And if you don't tell people that, it makes it difficult for the taxpayers to gauge your success, to gauge whether your methodology, the plans you have in place, whether they are plausible, whether they are achievable. So it makes people wonder. That's what makes most of us, you and I and many other people, speculate about this government, because from day one, they've not been good at communication. And I think it's about the spirit. They weren't keen to make things clear. They promised when they come in that they were going to be transparent. They'll be open to the Gambian people. But if you don't tell people what you're going for, what do you want to achieve, and when you return, you're not telling people whether you've been successful, and if you have been successful, how, why, what did you achieve? Break it down to members of the public. Okay, break it down to the layman, because Gambian public is still semi-illiterate average. Majority are illiterate. However, that gap is closing. The amount of people that can read and write has gone up substantially. But you still need to break it down to the average people who haven't been to school and say, okay, I went to China. Part of my trip was for China to help us develop that sustainable agriculture, especially the rice, what do you call it? Agriculture in relation to rice production. And this is what we want them to do. A, we want them to help us with irrigation, year-round cultivation of rice. How are we going to do it? We expect them to drill 40 boreholes, or part of our River Gambia is fresh water. We want to be able to run underground pipe work like what Gaddafi was doing in Libya. He ran underground pipe work from where there was a water supply or the water table wasn't that deep, or from the Nile across the desert. And from that, the sprinklers were sprinkling water into the desert. It was turning the desert into an arable land, arid land where people can cultivate their crops. So is that what Barrow went to China for? We don't know. All he told us was the same old rubbish, rice donation, this. But how many people did he travel with? Why did he take these people with him? What were those people's roles in that trip? were they going to be taught in China? Did he take some PhD holders from agriculture, which, by the way, has got the nation's highest number of PhD holders?
Yeah.
That's 7 people from the agricultural department. Why did he take them there if he had to import the Chinese to the Gambia to show us how to do it? Why can't he leave those people in the Gambia and get the Chinese to come and train them on land in the Gambia? Why did he travel with those 7 people if they weren't going to be trained in China on rice production or on irrigation from fresh river water or from underground sources like boreholes? Why did he take the tourism minister to Saudi Arabia, you would ask? Is Saudi Arabia going to embark on tourism to the Republic of the Gambia? Big question. It's possible. Again, this is why I said it's cost-benefit analysis. If they broke down what exactly they're going to go for, what they want to achieve, and when they come back, they tell us how they've succeeded, in what areas they didn't succeed in, it'll help us. The journalists will still have field days because they would like to dig into their successes and failures. But the members of the public will think, okay, there are concrete plans for 100 boreholes to be dug, or actually, River Gambia, from where it starts becoming fresh, will have this and this and that. So why did he take 51 people to the UNGA last year? Who were these 51 people? Who paid for their tickets? Who paid for the chartered flight? Where were they living? Were they living in the Grand Astoria, or were they living in Radisson Blu, or were they living in Novotel, or were they living in Travel Lodge? How much was it? Why did you take 51 to a UN General Assembly meeting? Who were they? They never told us. In fact, we heard 1/3 of those people didn't return to the Gambia after that UNGA. But they went on a Gambian chartered flight. They probably had the government to pay for their tickets, because if they paid for their tickets separately, people would have believed that there's something sinister. Okay? So who's going? Why are they going? Why are we sending, in this day and age, technologies there? We saw Ibu Jallo testifying to the commission via video link.
Yeah.
If he was able to do that, why can't our permanent secretaries, who get paid £300 a night when they travel outside of Gambian borders, £300, if you spend that £100 across the department over the period of 1 month or 2 months, they can have enough megabyte to be able to do their courses online, to be able to have direct lectures with their lecturers, seminars they call it sometimes, with their lecturers in England, their lecturers in the United States, their lecturers in China or the United States. Why did they have to travel? The air ticket has to be bought by the government. Then they get their daily allowance, which is the per diem, for it caters for their accommodation, their food, and many other things, knowing very well that most of them don't go into hotels, they go to relatives living nearby. Okay? So if we're really talking about austerity, they said the coffers were empty, even though we had doubts as to whether the coffers were empty. Because at the time Jammeh was flying out, there were no salary shortages. In fact, Central Bank came out and said their operations department had 100 million profit. So that meant we weren't struggling before that. But if you're paying people £300 a night for the UNGA, is a minimum of 1 week. Sometimes if they wanted, they can come the day after the General Assembly. But we saw last time they were there for 1 week. So calculate that. Let's say the real people who want to do something was 30 people out of that 51. So multiply that 30 by 300 by 7 days. You turn that, convert that into Gambian dollars. That's a significant amount of money. That would have been money that would have stocked all our hospitals for months. Okay? We've seen our hospitals struggling. So it's a cost-benefit analysis. But how do we know who's who? Who's traveling? You're taking 7 cabinet members to Hajj. Did they tell us they were on annual leave? Who paid for their tickets? Were they being paid their per diem while they were out there? Were they being paid their salary full, even though they took 2 weeks off their job? Did they take unpaid leave to go to Hajj? So it's all about communication. To me, the per diems are extortionate. And in this day and age, they don't have to travel as much as they were traveling. I heard the GNPC the other day 3 of their senior staff all travel. There was no senior staff in that department for about a week or two. They traveled simultaneously. And the GCAA or GCCA, Gambia Civil Aviation Authority, about 7 of their senior staff were a wall. Nobody knows. Nobody knew where they went. Other department is the same. You've seen that the benefits that come with becoming an MD, even though the cocoa ocean dinner was not catered for because I dug into it. You cannot go and have dinner with your family members. You can have dinner with investors, with partners, but you cannot have dinner that includes your family members. That's illegal. Your family members are not partners. They are not stuff like that. You can only have dinner and all the accessories that come with it. If you're dealing with investors, you're taking people to talk to them about the in and out of the social security business-wise. It's not supposed to be personal. So we need to improve in that section a lot. Significant improvement we need to do, and it all comes from communication. Why you see what central bank was doing? I'm sure Paos will elaborate on that a bit. Central bank was increasing their per diems and board level sittings by 140%. What for? Why are you increasing your per diem from 230 pounds for senior managers to 600 pounds a night? What for? What's changed?
Wow.
Are they going to start booking in more expensive hotels like Hilton? Are they going to be in the Dorchester? Are they going to start living in those suites rather than living in a simple room where you can spend the night and save your taxpayers the money and save the nation? Because you said austerity at Social Security and Housing Finance, but you spend 19,000 at dinner overnight. You're saying austerity, but you're spending $64,000 on a smartphone. What sort of austerity is that? This, to me, it was Animal Farm. So per diem needs to be reversed, completely reversed. We live in a modern world. You can sit in your office and have video lectures. You get trained by an institution overseas. Okay, you can do distance learning. You don't have to travel to go and do all those things overseas. I think it's extortionate, and they're siphoning funds from the taxpayers' accounts into their own pockets, and we need to stem that immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Lamin. Thank you for that wonderful intervention. I think our brother Daba managed to join us. What I would do is just to touch on quickly with what Lamin said and Paos. Lamin touched on a very important subject there, which is communication, which we all agree that is a massive area that our this government need to improve on. The reason why I bring communication is it's just what happened in the last time when they traveled to Mecca. It was around Umrah time, and they just left to speculate. And once people start speculate, they try to come and communicate, but then the communication message they bring out or the communique they bring out doesn't really reflect of what they say. And when people push back, then they go back again to the wall to come back with something else. So it's not something we can sit down here and prove, but we can all agree that this paradigm travel has been extorted, and they're milking it. And to be quite honest, it's morally wrong if it's been milked. Like Lamin have just said, if the cost analysis is done for any travel, I think the numbers we've seen that are doing this enterprise is traveling, and the number of days they're going is not a value for taxpayer. And sometimes we see them doing things which are personal to their party or personal to themselves when they are on a government paid travel expense. So on that note, Brother Daba, good evening. It's good to have you on.
Yeah, well, good.
Gambian following
And
you.
sorry for coming late, man, because I had, some other stuff that I was, working on. But all
We
good. I feel like the team would have done justice to the topic. And, my regards to everybody that is working, wherever you are. I say salute.
Thank you, Daba. It's always good to have with us. And know the reasons why you could not join. Paos and Lamin, I'm sure you were following, have touched on so many key issues in terms of this paradigm travel. I lived in UK. Paos the same, probably Lamin. Today we are not very diverse in that area, so it's UK versus the Gambia. But I live in this system West, whereas if you travel or if you are away from your normal work of place, we've got this thing which is called expense. If you need to stay in a hotel, if you need to eat, you're away from your thing. In fact, if you don't have a company credit card, what you do is you pay your own money and claim it. Or most of these companies that we work for, they would have a corporate account with these hotels and all that stuff. So everything is included. So money is not directly coming into our hands. And anything that you spend, you have to back it up with receipt. Do we need to look at this per diem travel? Because for me, I think it's been milk and it's been abused. You live in the Gambia, you know the system, how it works. What's your take on this subject today, brother?
Yeah. First and foremost, I think like okay, per diem for me, I think it's normal because like when somebody travels on behalf of an organization or it travels. Sorry, a call was coming up. When somebody travels on behalf of an organization or a government, it's the responsibility, especially on an official duty. I think it's the responsibility of the institution that you represent to accommodate you, feed you, and other logistics that you might need on the course of your travel. But the reality is like, I think what we need to look at is what control mechanisms is government going to put in place to make sure the per diem issue is not being abused or misused. For example, like ministries or departments or institutions could have, they could have a visa card in which, like, if an official is traveling and then you're given the visa card, so that when you go, especially because most of these travels is outside Gambia, like in the West, and in the West, their financial system is so advanced that like you don't need to hold cash to pay. You can pay using your credit card and all that stuff. So I think that is one way that government could do. And two, also they could control the number of travels, unnecessary travels that government officials make in a month. You understand? Because there are certain events that people attend. I see no impact that it's gonna bring for the country. So sometimes people just travel for the sake of traveling because they wanna earn money, and that is an expense. So for me, and also we need to look at also how much are they paying people per day. For example, like if you look at like the Central Bank of the Gambia recently made an increasement of over 100% with regards to their per diem. For me, situations like that, yeah, you could have an increasement, but at least 10%, 20%, 30% would have been better. But like going almost twice what is being paid, I think it's a deliberate move to milk the system. Probably now because of the Janet Commission, a lot of these government officials, like public officials, realize like they might not want to be engaged in maybe financial malpractices so that later they could face commission. But one way that they justify some of these expenses is to have per diem increasement. And a lot of times these things are approved by either abroad or by government itself, or it goes through the national budget, which goes through parliament, and parliament scrutinize it and give approval for it. So when they spend it, it's justifiable. There is no way that you can hold them to say like they're spending something that is not approved or whatever. So for me, I think what government needs to look at is they need to have a cap with regards to the per diems and with regards to the number of travels that people can make, especially unnecessary travels, because there are a lot of these workshops, these conferences, it yields nothing for the government. And at the end of the day, like you're using public funds to go and attend these events, and people just do it because they just want to go there. But per diem, we cannot remove it because no matter what, like public officials must travel, and when they travel, because they're going there on behalf of government or they are different institutions, it's the responsibility of the institution to fund this trip. But I think what they need to do is to look at what benefits would the country gain and the amount of money that is being spent for that trip, and then they weigh it. So if the benefits are higher, yeah, they can like either the Secretary General or the Public Service Commission could endorse the trip. But if like the gains are not that much, I don't think they should. And another thing also that they need to look at is the size of their delegations, because I see no reason why you have a minister traveling and you have the permanent secretary and maybe senior management all within the same ministry. It doesn't make sense, because if the minister is going, probably the permanent secretary needs to stay Because if both the minister and the permanent secretary travel, the ministry is almost basically on a standstill, because Gambia, we don't have deputy ministers. You understand? Who will step in? So if the minister is traveling, probably he could go with one senior person within the ministry, but not the permanent secretary. Or if the minister should stay, the permanent secretary could go with one senior official. I think they need to look at the number of people, the size of their delegation, because we've seen like sometimes the president traveling with over 50 people, that's a huge amount of money.
Thank you very much. I think it's fair to say both three of us here agree that the number of people in those delegations and the number of days that they normally travel is something that we have to look at. And I think every genuine concerned Gambian should be kind of like saying this. So like Lamin Tamba have just said, guys, we are
sorry, I'm going to give police standing now,
we are in the 21st century. We've got technology. And also, we've got ambassadors in most of the countries. So do we need these big numbers of delegation traveling to a country where we've got, like, for example, America, we've got the UN ambassador representing the Gambia, and we've got the Gambian ambassador to the United States. So sometimes, is it not prudent to use these embassies and reduce the number of delegates coming from the Gambia? I've seen this president of Tanzania, I can't remember his name, when he took over, he put some austerity measures, not crazy austerity measures, but simple things that work. I read one story where they are having an inter-country meeting with another neighboring country, and 21 people were meant to go. So he stopped it, and he just sent 4 people to go and join the ambassador who was representing that country. So, in fact, sometimes in Africa, for example, even Senegal or other countries where we've got all our ambassadors based there, it's a big question. Do we even need our ministers or our permanent secretaries to go on those big trips, expensive trips? Pause. So is it fair to say that people are definitely abusing this paradigm system? It's a way of illegal corruption going on? Pause. Is pause?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Bucks?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Well, yes. I don't think the word here is illegal or unfair or to just say it's just wrong totally. Yes. There are people within the system who wants to take the opportunity to abuse it, because imagine, for example, I'll use a specific example about the central bank.
Yeah.
The governor had 140% increase in allowance, while the domestic staffs, the drivers and junior staff, they have only 25% increase. So if a central bank governor travels, he gets paid almost what is paid to 10 civil servants in the Gambia.
Wow.
Right. You mentioned about ambassadors. Yes, to some extent, somebody will argue that, well, no, the ambassadors, they are not there for that. But then we have to understand that the ministers, they are only political figures. Ministers are political figures. Like, how often do we see permanent secretaries traveling? Because in every ministerial department, the only person that we need to see traveling is the PAMSEC, because they are the technical people behind the driver's seat. Like if you have come to a van, the driver and the apprentice, the driver alone cannot make money in the whole day, because you focus on the safety of the passengers. Whereas the apprentice, more collect pass, more regulate who comes in and out. So koku nga wala jël ne ko demal ma or koku technically more the face of your business in that car. More deal at people, more collect pass, more just change when there is something happen momla. So there are so ne have sin ko pay pass mu kaw si posam. Dave you dem oga tel te dara bahu te traffic nehut. Te ka traffic nina. Why betay what we're saying here right now, Moy, waxuñu buñ tukki, but there has to be mechanism. Daba just said it now. This government has been very wise to issue debit cards to every person who is traveling. So you say, and we come and audit you. Because the whole point of allowance is not to go and enjoy yourself, is to reimburse your spending. Because you can spend time with family, have your 3 meals a day. Lolo government you can subsidize for compensate that. That is not to say you travel and spend more than necessary. We have seen Lawyer Dowd when he went to America. Government time, government money in America, he went and have a UDP meeting. These are things that we have to stop. The government have to put mechanism in place. Like this, the first step of transparency is making people accountable. Before I pay you, give me a voucher. Before I buy something, give me 3 vouchers, and I pick the cheapest one. Before I make a payment to you, you must spend. Confirm that you went and spent in somebody's land, then you come and make a claim. So these are all things that this government needs to put in place when you combat corruption. VP traveled with 27 people. The number was high. But when the number was leaked to the media, then go bring down. Which again is not a sign of honesty and integrity. Man, farm sectors are traveling day and night every day in departments. Whether Hamnenko or Hamunko, there is high amount of travel. 47% of the Gambian national budget of 2018 was spent on allowance.
47.
Yes. Wow. And looking at him, nobody debated. On the 1st of January 2018, the central bank agreed that they have to increase the governor's allowance from 250 pounds to 600 pounds per night.
Oh God.
And brother, keep quiet. If they doubt me, let me bring it on. You know,
I think Pause, if you got that slide, it would be okay. Thank you. That's what I wanted. At least it's not just you quoting.
It's here.
All right.
You know, central bank governor, 600 pounds if he travels to UK tay, so someone tay Senegal Ami conference, 10 days. He get paid 6,000 pounds per night. He's going to have talk 6 months, going to have ligay 6 months, do ligay act. This is a government that said
there. Pause. Just pause there. Let me put you setan. Lunyo watane ni more about padem travel, which it's entitled come swing government officially minister swing tuke. Play tay lol mo neka swing watane tay bi dina ñoo ci kanam tuti speak bu president Barrow joxe ci parlement bi. Why pour just pour boole len ci waxtaan bi ñay ñu bari mënu ñoo follow ci lu ñoo wax ci angale tay dañoo compare comme su official tuke koku tukiyam bi yépp expense bi ñun ñoo ko dee fay ñun ñu dee fay tax lu ñoo laajte tey ndax ñoom ñu dee dem di tukki number of people yuy dem ndax ñooñuy war nañoo dem dees itam ak fan yi ñoo tukki tamit ndax loolu tam mun nañ koo seet parce que ñoom nguur bi ñoo toog ne ñun suñ kees bi dafa empty dara nekku fa waaye nu ñoo gisee gaay di tukki waxuñ ne waru ñoo tukki kenn waxul loolu waxuñ tamit lu ñoo def tamit dafa jéggi dayoo waaye nit ki comme tey soo amoon dépense yi fukki dërëm nga bugga ne nga ne tey sa jabar laa ci la dépense nga ne ko tey de kër baaxul fukki dërëm laa am waaye tey bugguma mbaxal benn cin laa bugga te yow mu óor na la ne fukki dërëm boobu noonu mënul laa jox benn cin yaa ngee laajte sa jabar loo xam ne yow mu kooku mënu ko so dafa mel ni tamit nguur gi si faana googu noonu loolu la ñoo wax ñoom ñun ñoo wax xaalis bi nekkul fa waaye ñoom nu ñoo spene ak seen tukki yi wonewul ne ñoom seen defin ak seen jéegin mu ngi firnde comme ñoom lu ñu wax lu paos di wax ni nomba suñ gis suñ kanam fii ni mooy central bank seen top officials yi seen paradigm travel bi dañ ko yokka by téeméer ak ñetti 30%, 130%. More last year 140%. su tukki woon 230 pounds la doon am tey day yokka loolu ba mu ngi nekk over 600 pounds tey 600 pounds si benn guddi wala benn fan soo ko wecci si xaalisi Gambia pound bu nekk mu ngi nekk $62 loolu you talking about nearly fan bu nekk bu kooku tukki ñu ngi ko fay luy demee si $36,000 si benn guddi pour benn nit pause ma bàyyi la nga continuer foofu noonu.
waaw comme waaw jërëjëf ni nga ko waxee si kàllaama olof for the sake of the Wolof listeners because lii nii dafa important pour every Gambian xam these figures because tey jii Gambian bu jiru tey jii you are indebted with $29,000. This is based on the national debt figure of $48 billion, which since last year, January, it increases to $53 billion right now because government is borrowing and we are not selling anything outside right now. And again, some might say, ñu nekkul Gambia, ñu nekkul Gambians, nekk in Gambia, ak ñu tukki ak ñu dee démb ak tey yëpp, it's likely that every Gambian you might pay, you have a debt of 60,000. This could be double. This study could be double because of this based on the figures the population is 1.8 million when it's not. But again, look at these slides. Example, I would like to give this example. Government Central Bank, lella mo doy essence of 200 and 200 liters. If you spend your whole 8 to 5 working 8 to 5, suba nga liggéey 8 suba nga toog sa liggéeykaay liggéey ba 4 yaa ngi wàcc 5 xëy na 6 7 8 9 10 between this 4 or 5 hour average, how could you use 200 liters of essence for 30 days? These are all things because if government should be putting blame on civil servants for not staying in their office up to 4 or 5, they can blame them because they give them the tools and the instruments to go out and Mumbai. Look at these figures, basic car allowance. Look at how the government is making people rich in exchange of no delivery. Look at our Secretary General. What is he doing to make sure? Look, I'm paying you £200 per night, or I'm giving you enough fuel so you can be happy and deliver. But yet still you can't deliver. Since they came in here, what has changed in terms of mechanisms to make sure people don't access easy money from the government coffer? What are the systems to make sure that people are accountable for what they claim? Because don't claim right now, claim them. When I was in the military, I once claimed for our passport application £14.50, but because of £14, I was so lazy to put the 50 pence, 0.50, and I just put the £14 in there. But I had to be called for an audit. Because the system, expect me, I'm going to put in £14.50, but I put £14, and that was flagged. And it flagged in the MOD system. They had to call me for an audit, and I get punished. So, boss, why did you put the 50p? No, because of it's just nothing. It's not about nothing. It's about external auditors. Again, when the government said the Gambia coffers were empty, Teiji, Ban Gambian, more tech but see any external audit report of central bank from December 2017 until now. We need to see an audit report of Ligai claim Yailo Sacha, Lipa Des, at right now, Lipa Yoko. But still now, nothing of that kind had happened. Every time where Barrow went for an interview, he would say, yeah, we inherit bad economy. We inherit 50 billion. We inherit nangam. Yet still, you are getting paid $2.2 million per year. Yet still, you can afford to pay a central bank governor £600. At the same time, on the other hand, RBH lab amul blood bag, which costs £2.
Yeah.
At the same time, the fire brigade, their salary we are reduced. You are paying a residential teacher $250 allowance a month when you promise to increase 1,500 still now.
Just pause on that. Luma, what I want you to do to help us is, I know we've gone up nearly just under an hour. I'm sure if you could just do us a favor, if there is any comments or anybody that's watching us, if you could just take another 2-3 minutes, go through the comments for us and just acknowledge our viewers. And if there is any question or comment that we need to know here, then we can pick it up. If you can just iron that out for us, please.
All right, thank you. We have Momodu Drame, Padiam's hunters should cease fire now. We have Hatab Sonko. I think Padiam should be measured based on return an individual will bring. we have to be realistic to sustain. Musa Trawale solution is needed in the Gambia to avoid this kind of governance. They are not doing nothing. We have Claudius Taylor. Did Borough have to go to China to sign culture, Bell and Road? Could have done so from Gambia. Yes, like I said, we now have, you can sign from distant. We have Peter Bass, John Mugafila, John Mugafilu. And we have Madeleine watching and Nene Fadera. Thanks, Madeleine. Per diem, especially for accommodation, should be supported with invoices and receipt. Yes, one sign of accountability. We have also Taylor. Minister should be competent enough to understand the brief of their ministry. Otherwise, what is their point? Well, I can tell you, we've seen minister who didn't know what their jobs are. An example was the youth minister. We have thanks, Madeleine. We have Famara Fati, they are very corrupt. Oh my God, Hatab Sonko. We have Molusise watching, and we have Susan Brown watching, Peter Bass. Peter Bass is saying here, I do not think it's right to lay the whole blame on the current government. People will take advantage of the system. It is not robust enough, sadly. That is just human nature. There has to be a written policy and guidelines that are enforced. Once you don't have that in place, people abuse the system. And yes, Peter Bass, you are very right. This is where government should come in, and because of the lack of that system you're saying, that's why we said government is a responsibility, because they have to put down these policies. We have Musa Tarawale getting worse. Buba is just crazy. Yeah, compliment there from an admin team. Caroline Mendes has joined. Cow, thank you guys, truly amazing, proud of you. Thank you, Cow. We have Papa Usman Lo just joined. That's what we have so far. Thank you. We have Tex who wants to come in and join, Mr. Bakari. I'm not sure if you are ready to take him on board.
Yeah, you can take him on board because my batteries, Chairman Bakari, my battery is going down and the charger is not working properly. Okay, so maybe cool. Tex can come in until I get my charger. So
okay, Pause. We're happy to have Brother Tex as part of this platform. If we can excuse Mr. Tamba for now until he get his battery resolved. Yeah, take on Brother Tex. And whilst Brother Tex is coming, okay. 2 points I've picked up there. Brother Taylor is someone I've said mutual respect. So he always try to put humor and wit into all his discussions. So I'm not surprised about his comment. What Peter Bass said, I think that's gonna be our wrapping point discussion here. We all know what the situation is. We all know what the problem is. But now, what can we advise, or what can we say to the government or people listening? What kind of system they need in place to cut this or to stop the abuse of this system? So until Brother Tex join us, so Pauls, on that note, what's your advice? Because it's all good for us to highlight these problems here, but if we don't come up with mechanisms or system to stop this, we're gonna have this program again. So before you come there, Pauls, just hold finger there. I'll get Brother Mohammed Tex to come in and say hello and do his contribution. Hello, Brother Tex. Good evening.
Good evening, Bakari, and well done for the program. It's quite a very interesting program and a topic as well.
Thank you.
I just want to say a little about this per diem issue. But first, I want to start by stating that, per diem is something that is legal, as Daba had, earlier mentioned. But it being legal doesn't mean that, when it is abused, it is not illegal. And what the reason why we're talking about this thing is because of the abuse of the per diem that we are seeing officials, not only the ministers, but senior government officials, senior civil servants abusing, it to get, something, in return. So what I think is that, one, it is being abused as, it being legal. Number two, it's, increasing use is not sustainable. We can't sustain how, people keep traveling every now and then. And two, and three, we cannot, also maintain the number of people that keep going for this travel, every now and then. But what do government have to do to get this thing sorted out? One of the reasons why the previous government came up with the travel clearance is because they wanted to put a measure to the number of people that travel, because they realized that there are some that just go to the internet, search for meetings, conferences, and the like, and apply for those stuffs and go for those programs, and at the end of the day get per diem for it. So they came up with this travel clearance to ensure that whoever travels out, you must have been invited for that program. The program must be something that is beneficial to you as a professional, must be beneficial to the institution that you work for, and must bring returns when you come back as a person that goes for, let's say, meeting or training, whatever. So when you apply for this travel clearance, they go through those stuffs and then decide whether you should go or not. And a lot have been denied clearance because of these measures. So and the former president used to be the person that does, and I think Barrow does the same thing now. But the difference is that I do not think the way it was strict before is the same way it is happening now. What I see is like currently it is more or less a formality that you just have to apply and get approval, because otherwise the number of people that keep going for these travels and all those stuff wouldn't have been that huge. You cannot imagine the vice president going for a meeting and carrying a bulk of people that will not do anything at that meeting, or will not come back with something that will improve the institutions that they come from. So a solution to this is, I think, the office of the president, whoever is responsible for the travel clearance, should make sure that there is, the measures are strict, and so that people follow the procedures, the things that are needed in order for them to be cleared. And in this, they should also put a limit in the entourage, like the ministers, when they go in, let it be limited. It cannot be the minister and the permanent secretary together going for a meeting. Who will be left to us? The senior person of the institution. So if the minister is going, the permanent secretary should remain to make sure that he or she heads the institution. If the permanent secretary is going, the minister stays. That way the institution, the function of the institution will continue than both heads going out. And the other thing I want to make mention is that the essence of the travel clearance or the per diem is, as a maintenance fee for whoever travels out, on an official mission. So if it is a maintenance fee, and which includes accommodation and feeding and all those stuff, I think it should be the government should make sure that it works it in a way that the embassies of the respective places that these officials are going to will be made responsible for the accommodation and whatever is like if, for example, the official is going to the UK, the embassy in the UK should be responsible for making arrangement for the accommodation and other logistics like transport and all those stuff, so that at least what the person will be given will be something that he or she will have in the pocket. With that way, the expenses will reduce compared to when you give the whole lot to the person. You will not know if he or she will go and stay with a family when the per diem is meant for him to live in accommodation. And one problem with regards to this is that if the person lives with a family and the family lives 2 hours from the meeting venue, he or she may get late to the meeting. The person may not, get all that stuff that they need. But if the embassy is responsible, the embassy will make sure that they book accommodation that is close to the meeting ground, that is close to the place that the person is gonna, attend the meeting or conference or whatever at. And that alone, when the person comes back, he or she will come up with return. And the other thing that government or whoever is responsible should look into is, if, for example, I am an epidemiologist, I cannot go in for a training that is about, health finance. I cannot go in for a training that is about security. Let them make sure that whoever goes for a training or travel or conference or meeting, whatever, let the meeting be about an area that he or she is concerned or responsible or doing. That will bring returns to the institution that he or she is working at, and it will equally bring improvement in the person, and not just going for meeting for the sake of attending meeting or conferences. Also, if I and you are in the same department, you've gone for a meeting or a conference about, economics, for example, I shouldn't go for the same meeting again because you've already gone. So the knowledge you gain from the meeting should be shared with everybody in the institution to make sure that we improve and at the same time reduce the cost of our expenses. And the other thing I want to make mention is about, the issue of training. Let the government restructure its training. Let it not be like every 6 months somebody goes. Let it be restructured in a training of trainers form. 2 or 3 people gone out and trained. When they come back, then they train the rest. That will reduce the cost, on training, and at the same time, improve productivity. Because if 3 people go, there is, handicap in the institution. But if like 3 go and come back to train, nobody is going, so the productivity will improve. And the last thing I want to say is that our economy is not huge. The people working in the government should feel sorry for the Gambian people. They should have the empathy for the Gambian people and know that they're not doing it to affect the government. They're not doing it to affect the presidency. They're doing it to their own Gambian brothers and sisters. In fact, the poor people living in the out there. Because when we run out of funds, it's the poor people that will suffer than those that have something to put in their pocket. In this, I meant, let us not just be choosing conferences or meeting and like that to just go for the sake of going. Thank you very much, Bakari.
Thank you very much, Brother Tex. Your points were really sync with what we're discussing. You've made some amazing contributions here. It's always a pleasure to have you. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Daba, you live in Gambia. For your 2 minutes, before we move on to our next program, unless Brother Mohammed has covered it all, because he's come up with some valid points here, which I'm like, wow. So what can we do, or what can we suggest, or what can we try and share with our people in there to try and stop the abuse of this padim travel payment? Daba, 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, I think just like I said earlier, and I think Brother Tex also has alluded to what I was saying. Like, these things, it's the central government that must come up with a policy, and they make sure like they stick by the policy. And it should begin from the top and then come down. It should not begin from downwards, going up. Like if they put control mechanisms, like it should start from the president going downwards, because people in higher authority must set examples, and they must live by what they promise to do. Without that, I don't see it working. The reality is, like, we've seen in situations whereby both the minister and the permanent secretary travel for the same event, or even during the same period for different events. For me, I think those are things that they need to look at. Okay, we've also seen like the number of travels that usually happen, in a course of a month or a quarter. Maybe probably they need to start looking at, some of the events that they go and attend, and what benefits would the country gain, how much money are they spending there, and what is that bringing. So I think things like that would really help cut down the amount of money that is being spent on per diems, because they spoke about austerity, and you cannot talk about austerities when you go spending like that. And you look at, I think it was the first quarter of this year that they gave their financial expenditures and all that stuff. You see the kind of monies that were spent on per diems. It's alarming, So I think like government needs to come up with very strict and disciplined measures to control some of these things. But per diem is something that we cannot do away with, because these people traveling, they are traveling on behalf of government, and if they are traveling on behalf of government and they are individual institutions, those institutions must burden the cost. And also they can introduce, institutions must have, can initiate visa cards, like when you are supposed to travel and then they give you the card. So if you go to these hotels, you just check in and pay by the card, using the card. So it's easier to control, to know whether the person claiming for the monies that they spent was really spent on what they claimed it was spent on. Without that, like when you withdraw cards, like it's normally done, when somebody is supposed to travel, they go to central bank or they go to individual banks and get hard currency and then give you cash. I can go and say, I've spent $10,000 when I didn't even spend $100. So how are you going to justify this thing? Also, do they come with receipts to back up the expenses that they claim? If they don't come with receipts, I see no reason why the audit department within their individual institutions should validate some of this payment. They should ask them to retire, because when they give you an impress, because per diem is more of like an impress. So you go out there and then you spend. When you come back, you're not going to come back with cash if you spend everything. You're going to come back with receipts. And this must be receipts that can be verified. It's not like just you coming down and then write a report and say, I spent this X, Y, Z. No, because if you book a hotel and stayed in a hotel, when you pay, they give you receipts. And then the receipts should indicate how many days you spent in that hotel and how much you paid for. If you go to a restaurant and eat, it's Europe. Because most of these places that they travel to is the advanced world. So in every restaurant, you can claim for receipts and they'll give you. Whatever services that you do, if you use Uber, you can claim for receipts. So for me, I think those are some of the things that they need to start doing to make sure that people claiming for the monies that they spend, it was really spent on the purpose of the trip. Without that, we'll keep going back to the same thing, like people spending money or people coming to claim back monies that was never spent. And government would keep honoring these things. And at the end of the day, some of these monies that they are spending, they spend it on their personal use. And when you have other sectors of the economy that needs it, like for example, the health sector, the education sector, you see police. And the sad part is, just to wrap up, the people who benefit from these padiums mostly are the senior government officials. And whereby you have teachers are claiming their overtime that was supposed to be paid and is not yet paid. We've seen doctors go on strike because their allowances, the hospitals don't have equipment, they don't have medicine, and, but yet still government is able to pay per diems. Like president traveling to UN with over 60, 70 delegation people. For me, when you tell me you don't have money, so that's why for me, I think all these teachers that want to go on strike, they have legitimate reasons why they should go on strike. Because if you tell me you don't have money, then you should not go out there spending like somebody who has money.
Thank you, Daba. Thank you for that amazing suggestion. And I think you are right. It's all about communication. It's all about accountability. That's how it's done in the West here. And it's the unfortunate part is sometimes we want to emulate so many good things from the West, but we don't put it in practice because, like you just said now here, I mean, that's how things happens in the West. Paul's just alluded to that earlier. Everything has to be backed up with the receipt. So there we go, Gambia government receipts and Visa cards. But the problem I think would happen is when they wanna kind of like account the bigger guys, like the ministers or even the presidents to a level. The president shouldn't be accounted anyway because everything to do with him we paid for anyway. That's the contract we signed with him. So Paus, I know we're talking about paradigm, but even in the Gambia, can we not be a bit smarter? Can we not be a bit more mindful with our expenditure? I'll give you a typical example and I'll let you wrap up. Then we read some messages and move on to the next point. President Barrow, whenever he travels, every minister who is in the Gambia, who is not traveling, you see them driving their expensive SUV cars, now even to the extent of our members of parliament. So most important people on our organs of government, like the top people, they would all be lining up the tarmac on a red carpet, one, to go and say goodbye to President Barrow for going to do his job, and two, to say welcome back for going and doing your job. Is that not another expense that we could do without? Because people might not think it doesn't cost us nothing, but if you look at it, the productivity of all those people parking their off airport for 2-3 hours to see the president, the cost of fuel, securing that, is that not another expense we could do without? So I'll let you elaborate on that, and also 2 minutes on your final conclusion with the PADEM, and then we read some messages, then we go to the next topic. Thank you, Paus.
Thank you, Bakari. First of all, I will come to the solution. If government is watching, they have now Satan because of nowadays, or if their ambassadors or surrogates are watching in the diaspora, pass them this message. It's a gentleman advice. Not they don't have to do it. Taiji in the Gambia, anybody can have a treasury bill or a savings in the Gambia. The national debt of the Gambia is 28 billion. This includes my money in the bank, your money in the bank, and our savings and treasury bills, right? Our GDP is now 130%, right? So these are debts the government owe to banks and to institutions. So when we sit down here supporting their massive traveling delegation in their haftans it does not tell well. I fully concur with Daba. The teachers has to go on a strike. Gis ma lu tax ba benn Gambian du mun a mer toog di fippu because ku xiif ku mar su yàggee da ngaa sàcca maa nga xëy. The high rate of poverty therefore always trigger the high rate of crime in a country. Recently, the Gambia has been experiencing high amount of crime. Mainly, there are young people who are frustrated, and these young people they could have been transformed into something that they could be tomorrow presidents. You pass by a young person in the Gambia, he's desperate. He's working, thinking the next meal, family people. But you have a governor who's traveling, getting paid £600 per night, £700 per night. Man, what I'm suggesting now is that travel clearance, we thought it was bad. Jamet of course pull control it, but it was to some extent good. Travel was minimized at some point, right? And secondly, what I'm proposing here for the government, let them have a GTEC Act, Government Travel Expenses Control Act. This is a policy that will define who travels, what you go and travel to, and how much you are paid, and what mode are you paid. Nowadays, any expenses amount of £2,000 above should not be given in physical cash. You go and give a standing order. Manteidi, I'm being sponsored by the MOU to go to university. When I make my application, I'm giving a number. That number I give to my university, they charge that number, and it converts into monetary value. So we are not in the age whereby people get physical cash to travel. That has passed. We have passed that, right? Yeah. And again, leadership structure in the ministries well defined, so people know what their TOR are. Kunek hamsel ligay lan la. The minister at PAMSEC will not travel. At some point, they have to, because you have the politician and the technical man. Because the permanent secretary is always a technical person in that department. He is more or she is more exposed and experienced in that department. Whereas the minister is only there to say, yes, sir, Mr. President. That's all they do. So, and again, we've seen a good example. The first lady went on a fundraising to Delaware with a delegation. So the amount of tickets that they paid compared to how much profit are they going to make from that fundraising. Then you have been a borrow for what the one to quit first class. Then you mbamal. What they did was they wanted first class tickets now. All persons now, all ministers now, they're going to travel on public, just like normal passenger. But what they fail to understand, man, they can't fool me, because the equivalent of 10 first class tickets, no one you call, and now you have 50, 100 minutes full of plane. It's the same. Yeah. So what we're saying was reduce the number of people, not the tickets you buy. You can have 5 people and have first class. I don't have a problem with that. But if you have 5 people, if you have 20 people on normal economic class ticket flight, it's the same as if you have 10 people on a first class. Yeah. So for this government, they acted smart and they keep us short. Coming to the last one, President should travel. I had this debate with somebody else. The president traveling, people going to welcome him or say goodbye, it should be stopped. Man, I don't accept. This is my opinion, because this current Gambia should focus on economic system whereby we will revive the economic. I don't know why the EU did not tell the Gambia, look, what they did. There was a study, there was the rapid response team that came to Gambia recently. They advised government, why don't send spiritually? We are now in an economic crisis. We needed a drastical and ridiculous economic measures. To cut down spending, one fuel allowances. These are things that we don't need in the Gambia. Gambia boy, Salak Nabakau, thing I doubt is less than 1 hour. No needed £200 worth of fuel per month. Yep, these governors, these MDs, you call the commercial families, ascend Shanghai. That's what they do. GRA. If you work at GRA, you get free allowance for fuel. You work at ports, you get it for free. And we are talking about social security. But when we come to know what happens in GRA, in ports, at Gamtel, Gambia is a rich nation. So on that note, I will highly emphasize the need for government to pass a legislation, an act that will control government travel spending. This is the only way that I see there it can be a law be enforced on people. You abuse them, you face the law, and we are misquoting these two things. These people, when they travel, they don't claim. The money is there fixed. Ministers get £300 per night. You claim or you don't claim. You spend or you don't spend. As long as you spend a night in Dakar, you get paid £300 per night. So that has nothing to do with their accommodation and their feeding. Why? Let's make use best of our ambassadors. They have residence. When you travel, stay there, my friend. You know, but I'm going to America for now next week or in 2 weeks' time. Let's see whether he will make a difference.
Jerry House, I think hopefully they are listening. Come ninko de waye all the time. You nekun fi talk the war rek for the sake of war. It's an important topic bi nga xamne fon na ñun Gambians yi war nañu bokk ci waxtaan boobu nonu tay mo waral waxtaan bi ni and foog naa ne waxtaan bu ñoo def ni tamit dañ ko gestu jël ci xam-xam tuuti moo tax ñuy mën a toog tey fii di ko wax di ko bokk ak suñ viewers yi. Pause. Before I wrap up to the next point, is there any comments and newcomers that you just want to acknowledge on our behalf and show our appreciation? And then what we would do is we move on to the next topic, which is President Barrow's speech at the National Assembly. Thank you, Pause.
Yes, thank you, Max. We have Mary Ekom, God protect. Well, I'm sure she or he wanted to talk about Gambia. Elizabeth Bass commenting text for that brilliant analysis. And Gambia First said if Barrow was watching, he would be snoring because the guy can't stay awake to learn. So, and Teresa Gomez, thank you for watching, says there is no accountability. Well, we see. Text the embassies should take responsibility of booking accommodation and arrangement. Yes, we agree on that. And this again, our Sijame, hello my guys. Hello our C, thank you very much for watching. And for now, that's what we have. Hana at me the close si parenthesis window.
Wow, so on that note, guys, thank you for that brilliant and amazing intervention. Also, our appreciation goes out to Brother Tex, who came in and said some very valid points. Brother Lamin Tamba is not yet with us, I believe. So what we would do is, this was a two-part program. I believe we got another half an hour to talk about President Barrow's National Assembly speech, which was on Thursday, the 13th of this. Which is again, I think Powers is the legal luminati here. He will correct me. It's a mandatory thing vested onto him by the Constitution to go to the Parliament and update our parliamentarian and stuff. Guys, I've read through his speech, and I managed to listen to it. I think Brother Lamin Tamba have managed to join us, so he would join us in this part also. Unfortunately, he wouldn't have an opportunity to wrap up on the last point of discussion. But my take on his speech was, it was a good speech, even though I don't agree lately much with President Barrow. I believe there were some key informations which we in the social media or Gambians who are well informed were aware, which were left out in that speech. What I liked most about that speech was when he preached about living peaceful coexistence and not the need of what we've seen lately in our social media platform and all that. So I felt that was a good message to take to the Parliament. I felt that was a good message to take to our legislature. Hopefully that message of peace and that message of tolerance, it's genuine from President Barrow, and it will be something that will be genuinely transpired by all those people back to our communities, because we can all sit down here and talk about Padam. The reason why we're talking about Padam, because there is peace in the Gambia. There is no other issues. If not, the point of discussion would be how to get peace and how to live peacefully. So for me, that was my highlight of his speech. And also, I did like how he break down each ministry. But I didn't like was there is certain key ministries in the Gambia which his speech doesn't cover a lot, i.e. agriculture, which is the backbone of Gambia. So Paus, I'm not going to start with you. I'll go to Brother Lamin Tamba. Brother Lamin Tamba, did you manage to listen to President Barrow's speech? And what was your take on it, please?
The speech itself was written, it was decent. I was not going to say too much about the speech itself, but I would have loved the president to break it down a bit more. So to me, it's more like he's reading what he's been given to read rather than actually telling us what he knows about his government. And that was the downside. His posture was wrong. He's looking down all the time, reading directly from the paper. Yes, maybe he's had no public speaking training in his life. It's going to take him time to build up that confidence of talking more instead of reading from the paper. The paper is just guidance. It doesn't mean you have to say exactly as it's written. The only time you probably need to look at papers quite often is when you're looking at the statistics, because you don't want to be wrongly quoted when you're giving these statistics of departments, performance, non-performance, the numbers, the amount of money. Then you have to look at the paper because you want to be accurate. His diversity speech, he could have gone further. It was a good speech to say, let's live together. I'm sure he's referring to the current tribalism and the charges on license whilst others gone free. That was the president to set the tone and say, look, from now on, we're going to clamp down heavily on hate speech from all sides.
Yeah.
And I think he needed that line in there. We're going to clamp down on hate speech from all sides.
Yeah.
To say we have to live together as a diverse community, peaceful coexistence, it doesn't go far enough. It's a good mention, but I wanted him to say we are going to start legislating Equality Act. We're going to start legislating or clamping down. I think that's legislation for hate speech. They call it incitement every time. Although some of the incitement is just charging somebody who's called him a liar, or charging somebody who said he's got broad waist. Okay, they call it sedition. They call it incitement. I cannot see how some of the people they've charged for incitement were actually inciting violence.
Yeah.
He could have gone and said, all right, we're going to start clamping down on it from all sides. You've seen recent charges from the police on so-and-so person. Those charges will be extended to anyone and everyone who preaches hate.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a good mention. He should have gone further. And I wanted him to be absolutely sincere about what he's telling Gambians. He's mentioned a few projects which we know were signed by the former regime. Yes, government is a continuation.
Yeah.
He claimed the foreign office that is being built near the arch was his government. No, this was Moroccan government, and the APRC government reached a deal, and it was signed under Balagaba Jahumpa. It wasn't his. Lamen Koto Pasamas wasn't his. Yilitenda Bambatenda Bridge wasn't his. Sukuta Jambanjeli Road wasn't his. But, of course, the International Conference Center and all those are being accomplished under him. He can claim a little bit of credit, but give the other guy, the government that was there, a bit of credit for starting it. So sometimes it's not about you supporting the previous government. It's about acknowledging that it started under the previous government and you honored that contract and it's being accomplished under you. So you're supervising it. So you still have got credit there because you're supervising it. People could have pulled the plug on those contracts, but he decided he was going to go ahead because he's seen the good in them.
Yeah.
The speech itself, apart from his ability, or rather the lack of ability to deliver what was in it, the speech itself was well written. It broke down department via department, department by department. It would have helped if he went into detail and said, this is what we've done on this, some of that stuff. So he says GRA is generating about 800 million a month.
Wow.
That gives us a figure of about 11 billion a year, roughly 11 to 12 billion a year. Why are we borrowing so much money? The borrowing, they said the last government left us in a $34 billion in debt. Within the space of 19, 20 months, that's gone to $53 billion is debt. Can you tell us why? Because average Gambians haven't seen significant change in their day-to-day living expenses. There haven't been increments in salaries. Some departments have seen increments.
Yeah.
Majority of departments haven't seen increments. So where did that money go? Have we seen any fresh projects that weren't signed by the previous government? No.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he should have gone. He mentioned the donor conference in Belgium a little bit. He said half of it is grants and half of it is loans. Where are the loans going to go? The NDP was launched in September last year. It was released in September last year, National Development Plan. He could
Yeah.
have gone and said, okay, in that National Development Plan, we've implemented point 1, or we've commenced work on point 2 or point 3 in this agricultural sector, in this sector. Yesterday we heard people in Sanyang and Tanje went to sea and there were no catches. They came back with empty nets. Nothing was in the catches or in the nets. There were no catches. What's happening to our fisheries deal? Why are our fishermen going? So he could have expanded those things. He should have talked on day-to-day activities that are affecting Gambian people. Okay? So crime rates. He could have talked about the recent successes of the police clamping down. And I was happy that they were clamping down on those people carrying out bank heists, observing customers with large sums of money leaving the banks and hijacking them, someone taking the money. So there were successes there. He could have elaborated on that. This is what we put in place. This is why we're apprehending these culprits now. He never did. Give your police credit. Give people credit. So the Faraba Banta inquiry, the results were out. What happened to the Kanilai inquiry, which is over a year old? How come Faraba Banta, they got to the bottom of it, but not Kanilai? So for me, he read what was in there rather than talking to us sincerely, telling Gambian people what he knows about the country, what steps he's taken. But the speech was read rather than being delivered. That's what I saw. It has good elements in it, but the messenger wasn't delivering those good elements the way they were supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Lamin Tamba. Like you said, I felt somehow also the same thing. And I even said on a video yesterday, it felt like it was a script. Sometimes I just, I see President Barrow speak at the early ages of his presidency, and I used to see genuineness and I used to see rawness in him. Look, we don't even, Barrow can deliver his speech as much as he wants in Mandinka. I don't care, as long as the message get to Gambians. He shouldn't use the English language if he's not comfortable. And, delivering that speech, I believe he should have even stand up and be in a bit of better posture and deliver it. Just some key notes I've taken up from that speech, then I'll get into the bar. He said there's a resembling success in its overall objectivity of implementing the National Development Plan 2018-2021. So he's already saying that there is success. The National Development Plan is already successful, but this has just been launched less than a year ago. So I think he kind of shot himself in the foot down there, because if he's saying it's a success, are we seeing that success? The other thing I've picked up in there, 11 million euros with the youth project, and then the government also added $14 million is there to complement the EU project. That they've already got 1,000 youths to be trained on there, and then also $3.9 million from Japan to support the employment creation to build a sustainable peace in the Gambia. So 30% of that benefit of those two figures I've quoted are women. Now, are we seeing some benefits going directly now into those two projects he said? Because these are big amounts of money. If you're talking about 11 million euros and then 3.9 million dollars, that could do a lot to Gambian youth. And as we know right now, the Gambian population, 38% of it are youths between the age of 13 to 13 years old to 30. So is that a figure, if it matches what Barrow says on that speech, if it's been spent or if those projects are on the way, why are we not seeing that kind of like changing the lives of Gambian youth? Like Tamba have just said, Gambian youth right now, they don't have much to do, hence why the crime rate is quite a bit light to them. So Daba, I know Paos would come and correct those statistics or those figures, but I'll get to Daba first. Daba, what's your take on President Barrow's Let me see if Daba is actually in. No, Daba is not in. So, Paus, what's your take on Barrow's speech, and how did you see his deliverance of that speech?
Well, yes, the speech. I'm not an expert to say he's composer, but I read the speech, and I was looking for some very very important things in that speech which I did not see. Yes, overall, he delivered a nice statement to the parliament. Now, this is a test for our lawmakers to challenge. And let's bear in mind that Section 77 of the Gambia Constitution requires the president to at least once every year to come and address a session in the parliament. And this, he will talk about policies and the administration of the state of affairs of the government. Yes, I have a big problem here. The NDP he always made reference to is not a legal approved document as far as the local government is concerned, because this was made or copy and paste without passing through the National Assembly for them to approve and see if what is in there fits the Gambian need. That never happened. He bypassed that and went to Brussels and had a conference and came back with a pledge. Yes, we were never told what is contained in that pledge. And on that fateful day in the morning, it was the day that he has to come and tell the people what was in that pledge. But that didn't happen. Therefore, if I could remember the president very well, in that national development plan, the critical things that need to be addressed as per their triangular hierarchy is the strengthening of the public institution, women's empowerment, and the diaspora, and strengthening civil society and information technology and data for development. I was looking for the diaspora vote. I was looking for when they're going to start registering new voters. I was looking for the state of affairs between the Gambia government and Africa Petroleum. I was looking for the involvement of Tony Blair and the wife in the Gambia. I was looking for a bill that will enable us diaspora when to vote and how to vote. These are things that he failed to mention. And also, I was expecting him to tell the National Assembly and the Gambians that the most talked about rumors, which is the drill which says it's going to start in 39 days or 40 days. He made mention of that but didn't go into detail. Mr. President, yow ngay sign nga contract at a sand mining company. Yow ñu laaj la ngeen xamoo tur bi kan la. Right? This is a National Assembly where you have to address, and what he failed to understand more on that day, that was a constitutional requirement. Just like Sumasage, New Durma, law this was a requirement from President Adama Barrow to sit down on that seat and tell the government or the people and the lawmakers can sign contract the sand mining company. We want to know. Ban company no start drilling. What are the contracts between the Gambia government and the FAR? What is Tony Blair's involvement in the Gambia? For God's sake, Tony Blair was a prime minister of one of the biggest powers country in the world. He never ever sent £1 to the Gambia or never bothers to make a flight to Gambia and say hello to Gambians. But why today? Because of land. Well, we can have foreign donors to Tony Blair. Guy I'm saying he comes back to Gambia. And this one, well, I'm not surprised when Tony Blair gave his speech saying Barrow is very aware of his priorities. Yes, you are one of them, Tony Blair. If he includes you, you are happy. But he can clearly define him as he's aware of what he needs to do because he's working with you. So, man, coming back to the speech again, I have no faith that the diaspora is going to vote. But we have to fight for that to happen. Whether crook or hook, it must happen. Right? The National Development Plan he made reference to, the National Development Plan was designed after we passed a budget. So how can God justify success in that National Development Plan? Li fa nekk yépp tey jii is not yet attainable. And the National Development Plan, it's here. This is a book bi nga xam ne not every Gambian knows what to do. This is like a party manifesto. You know, I'm not saying Bonna, but he didn't even that channel loan he mentioned. I made an analysis of that in my blog. Well, do we remember when Loreda was meant to attend? He didn't attend and delegated the finance minister to attend. And the parliament, they sent back that bill because they said they need the whole framework and the loan details. That loan, that 25 million loan for the fiber and internet cable for Gamtel. What do we need it for? When after so many weeks, well, prior to that, 2.5 million US dollars was transferred from the Gamtel account to a New York bank account, which nobody today can account for. Recently, $410,000 was given as a loan out from Gamtel. So, what kind of internet is Gamtel trying to boast about? If we come to the extent where Gamtel don't have the capacity, let them privatize the technology industry. Africell wanted to get a gateway, but Gamtel at that time it was blocked by Jammeh, right? So, Leggy, the whole point of the whole summary of that speech, he mentioned about 1,000 youths benefiting from the YEP fund. Well, I'm telling him what came was more than that. Part of the first 75 million euro, 20.8 million was meant for youths. We had another 14 million. We had another 3.9 million. We just came recently. Tay ban Gambian youth movement talk and I was trained. Let's all remember, the foreign minister was asked to come back with a list of trainees. Till now he didn't. And the game they're playing is like Mr. Budamsi Parliament is not challenging new change na dahala, reshuffle. How many young Gambians today can come out and say I've been trained? Look, the young Gambians have been trained since 1965. What we want right now is job creation opportunities. We have the Saro, we have the Gambia oil, something that Denton Bridge. What is wrong in investing 11 million in that place to employ the whole of Banjul youths in that place to manufacture and to refine oil? Instead, they open the gateway to Senegal. So we now import oil from Senegal. The good vegetable oil, we are selling 450 in the Gambia. Senegal is an own oil because they are 280 in the Gambia. Cashew exportation to Senegal, then go ban. Fishing, that agreement they signed, he didn't mention that to the parliament, and they signed a fishing agreement over a 5-year period to Senegal, and Senegal signed an agreement with the EU with a 48 million euro. Did you know what Gambia benefits? Senegal will train 5 Gambians on aquaculture.
Thank you, Paus. Let me just read some key points also, then I'll get to Brother Lamin Tamba. As you just said, I picked up on his speech that he said licensing of offshore blocks A and A2 blocks and A5 blocks before the end of the year. And I believe he was referring to FAR, but he didn't went into details what the agreement is, what's the percentage Gambian people are going to receive, when this drill starts, how soon money will be start pumping into the Gambian economy, and how soon Gambians also will start enjoying that. So he didn't elaborate on that. He just talked about the license. Also, I believe he said something about the National Human Rights Act Commission to be enacted. That was enacted in 2017 and to start by the end of this year. So human rights, as Lamin Tamba just mentioned, we see people being charged with sedition for saying President Barrow is lying or is fat. So I would like to see what kind of laws or what are the protection mechanism around that human right law, because I think freedom of speech should be entitled as long as you're not breaking the law or you're not inciting violence. Health, again, another key area which is failing. And Barrow haven't said much about health, apart from quoting 82% of child and adolescent are being immunized for the elimination of malaria. That's a good statistics there. But what is he doing, or what is his government doing about our failing health sector? Because just a couple of months ago, our biggest hospital, blood bags. So those are the things that ordinary Gambians need to know. these are the things that affect ordinary Gambians. So, on that note, what I believe was his speech was, yes, it's been break down into ministries, but what he did was, it's just like me being the director. You are heading one project. I go and say, Pause, give me your report for your project. You're not going to put anything that makes you look bad there. So what happens in his speech is all these ministers write the good things that makes their ministers look good. And let's not forget, most of Barrow's ministers are political appointees. Some of them are party. So all these people, are vying for the same job that Barrow wants. So Lamin Tamba, what's your take on how these ministers? Because I don't think Barrow or the Secretary General has challenged these figures and this speech that was put in front of him, because he should have scrutinized it more. I felt like he just read the script. What's your take on that, Lamin Tamba?
The truth is, as a president, you cannot go through all the details during a speech, and you can't know everything because there's loads of things happening in the presidency every single time.
Yeah.
However, you should depend on permanent secretaries, directors to be able to give him the right figures. So some of these figures, what he spoke about health, he didn't go into detail. He never looked at other things that used to be a priority few years ago. Women, children, disabled people. What is there for disabled people in the Gambia? He never mentioned it. And the other thing he didn't mention, like you said, is the deals that he's signing. I mean, a few weeks ago, he said he didn't remember the name of the company he signed deals with to mine sand and send it overseas. And when the former finance minister was asked what was in that sand or the minerals that we're exporting, he couldn't say. He just mentioned zircon, but couldn't say other things that we're exporting. So again, he's got people working for him who are not feeding the guy the real figures of things that are happening on the ground. We heard the education minister a couple of weeks ago or last week say that education is going to be free. They're going to abolish tuition fees. Barrow should have explained those in detail and told us how they're going to do it, where the money is going to come from, and how they will fund it. Who will be having the free education? Is it up to degree level, or is it up to grade 9 level, or is it up to senior secondary level? So there's a lot of stuff. To me, it's just pronouncement. He just says things. He doesn't break them down. He reminds me of George Bush Jr., the former United States president before Barack Obama.
Yeah.
We'll hunt down the terrorists. Yeah. We're going to find them in their homes and blow them up. Yeah. But he never tells you how they're going to hunt down the terrorists, how they're going to find their homes and blow them. Does he even know who these terrorists were? No. But he goes with the rhetoric and then gets people hyped up and ramped up. And then you find out when it's scratched beneath the surface, it's not actually true. We've seen the ambulance deal, which is good, 14 ambulances to different facilities across the country. But when you scratch beneath the surface and you look at the cost of running those ambulances for the government, their prices are extortionate. He said a few things, and then when you dig into it, free education, fees are going to be abolished. He hasn't even gone to Parliament, and they're saying tuition fees are going to be abolished. You haven't looked at the details. You haven't put it through Parliament. You haven't enacted it to become law. But you've gone and started pronouncing stuff, saying things. Some of these contracts that he said were going to happen last year, they never happened. Our energy sector was in trouble. I'm sure he's not thinking about Gambia's future, because all his moves recently in our energy sector is short term. He's got energy from Senegal. He's got a power ship in the Gambia. How long is that going to go on? Is he telling us how much he's paying Senelec? No. Is he telling us how much he's paying the power ship from Turkey? No. He's keeping that quiet. He's keeping all those deals so that people can find out. Unfortunately, if you leave it like that, people speculate.
Yeah.
I would have looked at long-term sustainable stuff like that Qatari or Kuwaiti company that offered NAWEC to build a power plant to train our own Gambian people to operate that power plant at no cost to the government, but the bills will go to the company. That's the public-private partnership that they keep talking about. Building institutions that Barrow keeps talking about. In our energy sector, he hasn't built any institution. He's given our foreign exchange to Senegal, and he's given our foreign exchange to Turkey. So some of these things that I've gone into detail. For me, he's fond of, and I think this is the people around him that are fooling him. He's fond of coming and giving us big pronouncements. And when you scratch beneath the surface, the actual deal is toxic. It's not right. It's not appropriate. And it takes one person to expose it, and then we realize, this is what was going on. You know, he's going to build mosques. And when people push he says, no, actually, Barrow Youth Movement is going to build it, not him. Okay? It tells diasporans, come with your CVs, and they're flocking there with their CVs. He says, oh, look, they're angry now because they came looking for work. They didn't get it. Are we going to get vote as diasporans? We don't know. Is he going to stick to the move? Doesn't look like it. Is he going to, look, I saw the written piece about our constitution. Did he talk about constitutional reform where they are? No. Did he talk about electoral reform where they are? No. So us diasporans are not likely going to vote unless we go home and register and attend election season. Do we know when they're going to do the next voter registration? He never mentioned. Okay? So the speech, like I said to you, like you mentioned earlier, is a script. He read it the way it was given to him. If he was sincere about it, he would have lifted up. He said, oh yeah, in this health sector, unfortunately, we had a crisis where the blood banks are finished, but we put this and this and that in place to ensure that never happens again. Yeah. Okay, that's passion. You said when he came newly, he was talking. He wasn't given a script then, but now, because of the pressure, he's decided to revert to scripts. And scripts as they are, they're given for guidance. You don't go on them letter for letter. So throughout the speech, he went, my team is going to do this and this and that. The foreign department is going to his head down.
That's my president.
Yeah, the head is gone down. He doesn't lift up. If you read from the paper, yes, at some point you know some things off ahead. Talk to your people. They're your people. If he's got stage fright, he's got a big problem. You know? So I don't have any issues with the speech per se. The speech itself was pretty on the surface. It mentioned everything on the surface and didn't go in detail. He should have broken it down for us. He didn't. So it's a missed opportunity. Last year, I would have accepted that speech as good, decent. This year, I will not accept it as decent because at least he stood before the nation. He's went to AU. He's gone to UNGA. So all the big stages he's been on. So all that stage fright should have gone now. He shouldn't be suffering from anything like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Lamin Tamba. Paus, now what we're going to do, we're going to wrap up. I believe we've been coming up to nearly 2 hours now. We all got works and families and stuff. So in just 1 minute, Paus, what's your wrap up and say your goodbye, please?
Well, thank you, Bax. Thank you, Lamin. And thank you very much. I will not say much, but apart from thanking our followers and the people that believe in us, we are no more than what you see. We don't know any more than what we are saying. And we are not here to challenge or compete and say we are the best or we are the technocrats. We are not. I just make my research and study it very well, understand, and come and table it out there for you to decide. And now, as far as the presidential statement is concerned, I am waiting to see which National Assembly member is competent enough and intelligent to see those gaps and start to challenge the government. Because after this statement, the same section 77 allows the National Assembly to summon the president for questioning. And I'm expecting that to happen for the president to defend and also to answer certain questions. I'm very concerned about the oil stuff. We want to know who. And when we don't know, the Gambia have more than oil. And these deals have been going on since January 2017. We don't know. But on that note, I know that we have been a threat to people, but we will still continue to fight for nationalism and Gambianism. And then we are here to stay forever. And we are going to go bigger and better, and we get more topics that will further incite fear and threat to those people who only care about themselves. Thank you very much, Box.
Thank you, Pamos. It's always good to have you on the platform. Thank you for being so insightful and being one of our support structure and our research fellow. I call you, Brother Lamin Tamba. If you wanna say your goodbyes, then I'll come and thank our viewers and do the final goodbyes, and we call
Yeah.
it a night till we come around their way again. So, Brother Lamin.
Yeah, thank you very much. For me, those reforms, civil service reforms, will take care of those per diems. It needs to
Mhm.
be done urgently because our financial situation is desperate. The Dallas is fallen 15% in 15 months. Okay, the price of stuff, commodities, is gone through the roof. The reforms that they mentioned in that brilliant move that they agreed on, the coalition move, he needs to
Mm.
go back to that drawing board and
Yeah.
start working from that. Forget about the national development plan. Those are the basics that he must. He's a transition government, and he
Mm.
needs to stop telling people that he will not finish the work in 3 years. No, government work is never finished. A human being's work, a human being's life, doesn't accomplish everything 100%, let alone government. So let him do what he can within the 3 years and then call an election. If he wants to ignore that move, well and good. But some of the points in it, he needs to go back on and start implementing them. So civil service reforms, a must, and has to be done very quickly. Electoral reforms, a must, and has to be done very quickly. And he has to consider the diaspora. Okay. The other thing is state of the nation. He needs to start talking to Gambian people. If he's got problems communicating, he can give the leverage to permanent secretaries or directors to engage the press. Come out clean. That's what building institutions is all about. A director should be bold enough to stand in front of our newspapers or television and say, this is my department's blueprint. This is what we've done. This is where it was in 2016. This is where it was in 2017. And this is where it is in 2018. That's how you build institutions. He talks about building institutions, but he's taking all the decisions himself. He's not letting the institutions be independent. If the institutions are independent, that Social Security MD would have gone because the board didn't want him there. Majority of staff didn't want him there. He would have been redeployed somewhere else by the Secretary General or PMO. So the institutions he hasn't looked at all. Nothing has changed. And I want him to go back to the drawing board. That move was a Bible. He needs to go back to it and start working from the ground up. Otherwise, he'll ignore the agreement, he'll ignore the 3 years, and he'll have a torrid 2 years on his hands. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, the panelists, and our brilliant, brilliant moderator, Bakari. I appreciate the platform, and I would love to come back here every time this platform wants me to come and share my experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Lamin Tamba. You're always welcome. You're part of the family. Thank you, Brother Paos and Brother Daba, who was with us earlier. And also thank you to Brother Tex, who came up with those amazing interventions. To our viewers, you are the most important people to us. We are just here to share your points of concerns. We appreciate your time. Sorry today we could not take any callers because we've been here for such a long time. Time is the essence, but we will go back on message and comments and we would acknowledge them. And if there is any question, we will try and answer them. So once again, thank you for also supporting this program. Until we come your way, it's your favorite platform, The Common Good. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for watching. Keep on sharing the videos. Tell your family and friends about this platform. We can only get bigger and better if you share and you support this platform. So on that note, thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.